Hey everyone, back again for the repair video. Repairing a miniature is generally a pretty hard thing to do. It can be easy sometimes when you have something very tiny that you want to fix. But today we're going to be fixing a couple things that can happen in miniatures. Uh, that would be layer shifts. If you recall the large one, we had an issue with that hair I had pointed out in the previous video. Well, we have solved the hair issue by me sculpting it out on this little piece right here so that it looks like that's how it was meant to be. The other issue we have is right here where we had the layer shift again, because remember it printed kind of like this, so when the layer shifted it kind of got everything in a row. It got oh, I guess she was more like this, and it got her finger down here that made it a little flat and shifted. It got her shirt right here. It kind of the collar is there that goes across, but then the shirt itself kind of breaks off into uh, I guess you could say a hole, sort of. It just shifted it and it made it look like it doesn't look right. The hair had also had a real visible shift. That's how we determined that there was a layer shift. So I haven't washed her yet in the sense of, I mean, I've washed her off from the rubbing alcohol that we uh, after we printed her. But I mean, I haven't washed her, so she's still got all the powder all over her. The powder doesn't really go away, really. I mean, you can get the powder off, but the look that it's there will stay, and that's fine because we're priming it. But first, we want to fix this little issue. The next one that we want to fix is the one that's smaller that I printed, where the supports had failed all right in here. Well, when that happens, it still had the rest of the supports. So it's still printed, but it kind of split right along this edge where she sits. Now, some people might say, well, that's on the back. You're not going to see it because it sits like this, and you know you can't see that from any angle. However, uh, no, we're going to fix it. We want like a good model, not a broken one. So this one is going to require a little bit of spackle and such. Now, I was going to use the um, resin that I printed these with, and that is possible. You can do that if you don't have any other option. You can use the resin that you printed with this, and that is a totally viable and workable thing. It's probably something you actually have on hand because you printed the model. Um, and the spackle, you might, I mean, if you've ever filled any holes in your wall, the drywall, you use spackle to do so. So the spackle, it it can go in these holes, and you can use that resin, whatever it may be, and a paintbrush, but you would lightly paint it over, very lightly. And then you'd have to use a lot of washing cure stations. They come with a light pen that lets you just do touch-ups. I of course have my pen here, where you would just, you know, but uh, in the sense of that, it has to be a very, very light, thin coat with a paintbrush. I mean thin, because you don't want to fill it in heavily, because you actually need a UV the whole thing. When these models are building and they're hitting the tray, those layers are very, very thin. Usually, point .05 to zero point 0.1 millimeters thick. That's 0.05 is like the width of a human hair. Point 1 is like, well, twice the width of a human hair. Still, way smaller than a piece of paper. So when these layers are stacking, they're being UV'd. I mean, this is not a non-UV'd model. It is UV'd. It is technically UV'd. It's just we put it in the UV chamber, or the sun if you don't have a UV chamber, to really bake it in, to make sure that it's very solid, very UV'd, not just really UV'd. And what that means is that when you're putting this on, you're going to want it to be very UV'd in there. When you put it in your chamber or you put it in the sun, it'll bake the rest of the way. But you don't want to have layers of liquid or wet resin underneath here, just hanging out. Because resin, as I might have stated in a previous video, expands and it gets hot and blows up, and you don't want her, well, you don't want her butt to blow out. in the case of this one, or in the other one, you don't want the shirt to blow off. And it's spray resin everywhere. Now, chances are it would spray very little, if any at all, because the repairs aren't going to take that much. But it would still break again, and the breaking is bad. So we don't want to have it break. We don't want to have to do repairs over and over again. So for me, I am using a UV resin that I got on Amazon. It's for mostly making little jewelry pendants, things like that, or things you want to just resin in. It is a clear resin. It is, if you have clear resin, that'll work too. It runs in the 495 nanometer range of light, same as regular printable resin. So, but this is clear. And why I say that's important is the clear is clear, like a window. You can see through a window. So when I shine the light on it, I'm shining the light right through the resin. It's drying all of it right through. So that plays an interesting part. If I make it a little thicker or a little thinner, it doesn't really matter because it's going to the light's going to go right through. It's going to harden all of it all the way in. And then when we have the UV chamber, of course, it's going to do the same thing. So there shouldn't be any resin that's stuck wet and liquidy at any point down. So I can be more generous with my resin instead of conservative. Now, with this one, I'm still going to have to paint because drip, drip, drip isn't really going to work so well on a rounded organic surface. Whereas with this one here, I'm literally just filling in a hole because the collar is still there for the shirt. It's just that there's a slight ditch, I guess you could say, right here, where there wasn't any resin. So in that sense, this is just going to be a fill-in, and that'll work fine. Dripping it in, dropping, dripping, whatever. So let's go ahead and let's get over to starting the repair. Like I said, the tools that we're going to use today are resin. Over here, I have the spackle. Of course, it's way over here. Why would I have it close, huh? Why would it be close? Close is crazy. Fast and final DAP spackle. It's you don't want it dried out. It should look kind of gooey, like some sort of white paste. Some sort of white gooey paste, like whipped cream, a little thicker. You don't want anything too flaky dried out because that's really not going to help you any. You want it to be fine so that when you put it on, it works fine. So spackle, our flashlight, resin, and the most important part, fingers. And I have a paintbrush right here. This is a beat up old paintbrush that I will actually be doing the resin with when I'm painting it on for this one. And you'll probably need a little cup that you can put the resin in. I have these, I have these cups. This is a dirty one, and that's perfect. It doesn't need to be clean. It needs to be clean enough where you're not going to get junk inside the resin, but, I mean, whatever. This is a little cup that I can use to put the little red resin in and then paint it on, and then hit it with the light. So, those are the tools we're going to use for this. You'd think I would have gathered them prior to the video, so they're all right here before me. However, that would have made sense. I don't make sense. So, I will move them out of the way for now, and we will go ahead and get started with this part of the video. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and I probably get back to you. So, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we were going to come and fix this one, except that we had a little problem. I ran out of space on the drive, and it didn't finish, and you can't unfix something. So I will just explain to you how I did this. So we still have the other one to fix. We can't unfix something to redo a video, unfortunately. So what I did is I held this, sort of like this. I looked in this little area here that we showed, and then I went and I just dropped it in, bloop, and then um, I took my pen and I went like this until it was nice and dry, and then that filled in there. As we can see, I'll use this to mark it. As we can see here, this is all filled in nice and cleanly. That little hole is gone. It's is all the way up to the very top of this collar that goes across. This here I thought was maybe a problem, but actually it's smooth. It's just again a trick of the light and the powder. But this here, it all filled in. So we got a perfect fill here. I did say that the benefit of I said I might use the resin that I use for this, but the benefit of using the resin that is um, this resin here, which was off Amazon and very cheap, is that let's see. I don't know if I can get a really good view of it, but it's just called UV resin. Um, it's clear. And if you have clear resin, that works too. The thing here is that when you're using the light, it shines all the way through, so it hardens it all the way down instead of just the surface, because you don't want any wet resin or any uncured resin on your model. You want it all to be cured. So now we're going to do this part here on this one. We have hopefully this one records, because it would be very difficult to cover it again with it not recorded. I would hate to try to have to break something to do that. So let's go ahead and let's start on fixing this big gash right here. It goes all the way around. I've sanded it in previous times. It did go out pretty far, which we didn't want. So I tried to make it so it fit. I used my rotary tool there and sort of smoothed it down. I also cleared out any of those waffle waves that were inside here with the layer just zigzagging. So it is a clean model. It's ready to go for repair. You might see a jump because I paused it briefly just to make sure it was going to record this time, because I don't want to do this because, again, you can't undo what you've done. Once you've fixed it, it's fixed. You can't unfix it. Well, I guess you can break it, but I don't really want to break anything. So, this model is finished, so I'm going to move it out of the way. And we're going to work on this one. This would be the bigger repair and the more important repair. The other one was just putting some drops of resin and curing it. Whereas this one is we're going to actually go in and we're going to try to go ahead and fix this this model up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by looking at our hole here, and then taking a little of this goo, this spackle. Speckle gets everywhere. It is messy. It doesn't stick naturally, but that's okay, because what we want to do is we want to just go in here, and we want to just try to get it to go into that hole. That's nicely like a lip, which does help us make things work some. So let's just go ahead and fill that in as best we can. Yeah. Now this will be in parts because we do have to have the spackle dry. That is why I got high-speed drying spackle there. So let's just get it to go as much as we can. We want to move our finger over, run it along. It is messy. I will tell you offhand, it is messy. This is not a clean process. This is a messy process. Messy, messy, messy. Imagine you're a kid playing with Play-Doh or clay or whatever, because this is super messy. But you see we've got it filled in right here. We can clean it a little bit, but it's filled in pretty good there. And then we're going to continue over here with the same exact thing we just did over there. We're just going to come in and fill it with the spackle. Try to not lose any of our shape. It gets all over your fingers. So however, we filled it in pretty nicely, I would say. There we go. We'll just smooth that a little bit. A little bit of smoothing. There we go. Yeah. So, okay. Now let's set that down for a minute so I can clean this off my fingers. I'm going to use a Kleenex because it's just spackle. It's not like it's anything toxic. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's toxic, but it's not really that big a deal. It's just drywall or something, chalk or whatever. I don't know what it's made of, but Anyway, this is how I do it. That is the point of these videos, is how I do it. So, all right, fingers are clean. Yay me! Let's throw that away, and let's bring this back up. We can close this off. It dries out so fast, so we don't want this open. We want to keep this shut. We don't want any of this to dry because I don't like buying this stuff. It's not very expensive, but if you're constantly buying it, it can get expensive. Anything you buy over and over and over, make sure it's down. Okay, that's closed. Now let's come back to this again. Okay, so we have this this connection here. I know I just cleaned my fingers, but we're going to come in and we're just going to make sure we got it nice and smooth here. We also don't want any extra stuff like this little piece right here. We don't want it to be there. Let's throw that away. Yeah, that didn't throw. Okay. Into the well, you know what? Yeah, that didn't work. Sure. Let's go ahead and let's see here. This is nice and smooth. We have a nice and smooth finish right here, where it evenly, as you can see, it just goes right along the edge. That's nice and good. We want to make sure we don't have any extras sitting around where we don't need it. We don't like this here. You can see it sort of curves up just a touch right there. We want to go ahead and wipe that because we are going to be covering it with some resin, and we want to make sure that we have it as clean as we can get it. All right, now this stuff will powder up on us, so we don't want it to powder up on us. We want it to stay as close to the model and smoothness as possible. If you look at it from the side, you can see that we've got it pretty darn smooth all the way. Well, there's some light reflecting there, but I don't know if I can. Where's my controller? Let's see here. There we go. So you can see we have it. We do have it moving pretty much right along that line. It's a little blurry, but that's just because of lighting. You can see right here we've got it filling in all the way around on her backside. So that will work. What we're going to do now is we're going to pause the video and come back to it when it dries. This stuff, it says 30-minute latex ready paint ready. 30-minute latex paint ready. So this is going to take 30 minutes to dry. The latex paint ready is a good symbol of this resin, though. I mean, technically, we could go ahead and do that right now. I guess it isn't latex paint. This is resin, and we're going to hit it with something that's going to turn it into a rock. So let's mix up our resin. We'll just keep going. And it'll just make that resin. The resin will soak into that spackle a little bit, and that will make it so that it's just a little harder. But so I'm going to pour a little of this resin into this cup, and so we have a little bit of resin in the cup, not a lot. I don't like to waste. Waste is bad. So I'll put the top back on. We've got our terrible paintbrush here that's all beat up. I'm going to go ahead and dip it into this resin like so. So there's a nice ball of resin on the end of it. Roll it a little, and then I'm going to just paint the resin right onto the model right there. I'm just going to tap paint. Now you don't want to put it on too thin. You want to put it on there pretty good. You do want to try to blend it as you can because you don't want bubbles or balls, I guess you could say, of resin. So I'm going to set this down over here because I'm going to use the UV light on this now, and I don't want it near the resin. So I'm going to do it over here, hit this with the UV light, which will harden it. Nice and hard. Hardly there. Hard. We're going to let it sit for, we got to do this for a few minutes, well, a minute or so, just to get it hard. Remember, we still are going to set this in the UV chamber to go ahead and dry it out. So let's get it all nice and now you also have to remember that this resin is not on there thick like this model is solid, but the resin we're putting on right here is not. There's spackle underneath, and spackle is like powder. So We don't want to assume that we can sand and cut and scrape and everything else on this. It's only like a couple little bitty layers there. All right, let's move on. We got that one. Let's go ahead and let's do the other side now. It's exactly the same process. We just dip it into the resin, and we come here and we dip paint it right on there. I'm positive I put enough, but maybe I didn't. I don't know. We're just gonna paint it in. Can I hold both at once? I don't know. Let's find out. Yeah, I definitely have enough resin here for this. Okay, get a ball of it, and we're just gonna, again, just paint it on. And then, how do you clean your brush? You know, you're saying, well, you just wasted that brush. Well, yes and no. Rubbing alcohol is the bane of all resin. Let's get those little packs of speckle off. All right, we just want to come in here and just smooth it over. Smooth it over really quite nicely. Just make sure we have everything covered. You'll see it's shiny. Spackle isn't shiny, but resin is. All right, so let's make sure we got it. Set the cup down, set this down, grab our pen light, and hit it again. You see we went a little off over here on the side. A little off on the side here. We went. We have. That looks all pretty good, but we are going to use the rotary tool to come in and smooth it again because we're going to have to smooth some of this out. We did just repair it. It's going to have some lumps and hills in our repair, especially if you look like right in here. We have a little bit of a lumping right in this area here. Over in here, it's pretty good. We're on the actual curve. It looks like we got a really good seal. We want to just run it over. Yeah, just hit it, and make sure that we get it all. We do want it to go. It needs to harden. It doesn't need to harden like, you know, end result, because we are going to put it in the thing. Let's just go ahead and take our pen, the back of our pen, and say, is it hard? It is hard. It is hard all the way around. That's good. So if we look at it, we can see that it's not quite even yet. So what I'm going to do is come back with this. And, you know, there's nothing that says you can't add another layer of resin on top of the resin you just added. So let's just go ahead and just tap it right in here. And just do that right there. Just to fill in this little hole. We don't want it to leak down. You don't want to get it on your hands. You want to keep from doing that. But I think that's probably a pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and set this down again, and then let's get our light and hit it again. We're just going to smack it again with the UV light here. We're just going to hit that, and we don't want to put the light into the resin either, so don't tap it. You pay attention to what you're doing. I was looking over at the screen for a second to make sure that you know, I was in the area where you could see what I was doing. And it is clear. Now note, it is clear, but that's fine. It can be clear. It can be used. You can use the resin you use to make the model as well. If you have a light or some sort of fixing tool that will allow you to harden the resin, you do need to have the resin hardened. You can't just put that in the sunlight. You're going to have to instant harden it with something. I'm using this light, but if you have you can get this light on Amazon, by the way. It's a light fee D11A is the name of it, a light fee D11A, and there we go, all nice and resined right in there to fix that up. All right, now it should be hard. We can just run our thing over it, and I'm not getting any wetness on this brush, so that is good. Let's run our finger now. It's a little tacky. It's not all the way hardened, so it is a little tacky in there. We probably need to zap it some more here. So for this stage, what we're going to do is, since it is still a little bit tacky, we're going to go ahead and we're going to UV zap it. This was the only repair we needed, so we're going to drop this in our UV box to give it a good hard 5-minute curing with the UV. That's good for the model anyway. We need to do that anyway. I was normally going to rinse it off, but I'm not going to because we are repairing this. So I'm going to UV this guy or girl, and we'll see, because we don't want it tacky. We want it to be nice and hard. So I'm actually going to have UV her sitting like this, so make sure that this part here gets a lot of UV light. I'm also going to go ahead and put this brush in some rubbing alcohol, which I need to. I'm just going to put the rubbing alcohol in there and spin it around. I have that right over there. So how I clean this brush that we used is I'm going to lean really far over. Okay. I have here some regular isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to go ahead and pour it in this. Again, resin doesn't like alcohol because that's what you use to clean models, most of them, unless you have water washable. So it'll clean this too. We're just going to, put our brush in here and mix it. We did use most of the resin. If you have a lot of resin in a cup, this wouldn't be the way to do it. But I did not have a lot of resin in that cup, so I'm going to just do it this way. And then go ahead and rub this on the side. Unfortunately, that also means that this cup is toast, because the resin might come off, but you probably don't want to use it with your paints. But that's fine. I have like a gigantic box of these little cups. They are dirt cheap on Amazon, or you can pick them up at like Sam's Club. You can probably get them at Walmart too. You can probably get them everywhere. They're just little condiment cups. So let's see. Did we get it all off? It looks like we pretty much did. One test is, remember this, you don't use a brush that you actually want to keep. So one test that we can determine if we actually did a good job or a bad job is to hit it with the UV light. If it turns into a brick, then you didn't do a very good job of cleaning it. It only takes a second to find that out, and it pushes down. So we did a good job of cleaning it. It didn't turn into a brick. There we go. Our crummy brush is good for the next time we need to use a crummy brush. Beat up brush or whatever. And this, I just put the Kleenex in the rubbing alcohol to soak it up. Remember, there's resin in that rubbing alcohol, so you don't want to put it on your fingers or hands. You don't want to try to flush it down the sink or anything else. We just want to throw it away. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and UV this, and then we'll see what happens at the end. Okay, we're back. It's been 5 minutes, and she is not so tacky anymore. It's pretty solidified there. But if you can't really tell, but there is some hills now around the edges here in some of these places, and we don't want those hills. But you definitely want to have it cured before you use your rotary tool. Now I have it on the flat one, the flat end here, because for the last one. So that the video didn't work. So let's go ahead and turn this on. And then we're going to just come in and we're going to do some sanding here. I'm going to come in here and we're just going to smooth it up a little. And you can guess that this is sort of a process where we do what we did last time. We're just going to come in and sand this edge down. We want it to be sanded. We can use our brush. Wipe it off. Make sure we've got some smooth sanding going on in here. Along this edge. Yeah, that's smooth. All right, let's come over to this side. We definitely want to make sure that this is smooth too. All the way around our edge, we want to make sure it's pretty smooth. The area where we spackled should be smooth already, but we just want to blend this edge in as best as we can. You can kind of see where it's not so smooth because it'll make like a little trench. It'll make a little trench in here. So we want to make sure that we smooth that little trench out. So let's go in and do that. Okay. We want to make sure we get all of it though. We don't want any trenches. Those will, again, when you prime this thing, any kind of errors you have, any kind of hills, valleys, pits, whatever, they'll show up real well, real good. And we don't really want to see those things. We want to have a nice, clean model. So we want to just run along the edge of this and blend it back in, so it's going to be nice and smooth going into the models. This so our repair is not, standing out. We're just going to come in and just run along the edge here. Not a big deal. Just to sand it down a little. It looks like my aim was a little off on this, but we'll just sand that down again. Yeah, just sand it out. Come up here and just do this area right in here. This is where the actual liquid is. We're just gonna come in and just sand. Okay, you can see that there is, you can't really tell, but if you see, if we look here, you can see that little lump right located right there, and we don't want that. We don't want a little lump. So let's sand our little lump out, shall we? Let's make it nice and not lumpy. Some people like lumpy mashed potatoes. I'm not one of them, but we want to make our model smooth. So if you like lumpy mashed potatoes, that's fine, but don't like lumpy models. We want to go ahead and sand that in there, right there. Sand. This goes at kind of an angle like this, so let's go at the angle of the model, and then let's dust, and come in and do a little bit more sanding, and I did a little over sanding there. Remember, you don't want to go over on anything because you can take away, but you can't put back. So let's see. Yep. That is pretty smooth right there. We've gone over the edges. We've gone over all the edges, actually. So we've blended in our model successfully. I'm going to come right here. There's a little bit of oddness there. Just making sure it's nice and smooth. There we go. All right. So we have sanded this out. It is nice and smooth all the way around. This model is officially ready to, well, nothing. It's ready to nothing. Okay, so I just roll over here. I put my finger over here, and I noticed that we do have a little bit of a lip. It doesn't look like we got some resin right there, actually. But here's the catcher. I don't want to have to go get the bucket and the bowl and everything else again. So how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this filled in without having to do and get the paintbrush and everything? Well, it's a little bitty, tiny little dot of that the resin must have slipped off of the speckle. I can see it. I don't know if you can see it. I can bring this really close, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to show up. Let's see if I can get an angle here and hit my focus. I want to focus on what's right in front of the camera. This stuff is really bright, so with all the lights, but it's located right here, right there. There's a little bitty where you can see that the clear resin isn't there. So we're going to need to put something there. We don't want to have spackle visible to when we paint. Because that stuff will just absorb and powder and turn into a mess. So I'm just going to take this as is, and I am going to put the tiniest of little drops right here. I mean, just the tiniest of little drops right over it, and I'm going to kind of drag the bottle just to get it to smooth down. Okay, and I'm going to put the cap back on my resin here, and I'm going to get my flashlight, and I'm going to zap it. I'm going to zap that. I'm just going to use this, so it's going to take a moment to make this set in really good. But because you know, we can throw it in for another 5 minutes, and we will have to do that because every time you put the resin on, you're going to have to UV it again. So it's best to know that everything is right. However, that's really kind of hard when everything is shiny. So you're not going to be able to tell really well, but we know that this is sealing because that's what this light does. Okay. Actually, it sealed it without us having to put it in the UV. It's hard as a rock. That's great. So let's grab this again because, well, clearly I thought I went all the way around and I didn't. So right in here I didn't do, I can see it. Let's just get right in there around her elbow and her arm. We want to just try to get that right there. And then apparently I must have hit her arm at some point or something. So we'll just do that again. Just get it right in there. Take our brush and wipe it off. Okay, so we've got that part. Now, because this is such a big area that we did in the last one, I didn't do any buffing or anything. It was very smooth. It was very clean. This one is too, to an extent, but we did blend it to the sides. The other one I didn't really have to because of where it sits and how it sits. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my tool again, my little buffing tool here. And I'm going to buff it just like we did in the previous videos. I'm going to buff the areas where I have done my little angry badger rotary tool. And, or angry raccoon, angry badger, I don't know, I've said so many different things. So let's go ahead and let's buff along this edge so we can just clean that up. Just a little buffing, little buffing, little buffing. Right along this edge here where we've blended. We want to go ahead and make sure we've buffed it in so it's nice and smooth. There's no, you know, scratch marks that are common when you use a rotary tool because it does, you know, scratch it. And I think just sort of friction peels it away or whatever a rotary tool does. So we're going to go ahead and just come in here and smooth this down with our rotary tool again. We're going to come in and just make sure that we've smoothed every little part of it out here, and we have now at this point. Very nice. Okay. Yep, we got all that and all this and all that and over here and over there and everywhere. Okay, so now it's all smooth again. So what we've done is we've fixed a model. We've created new modeling with the speckle, and we have we created some I guess you could say new this filler with the speckle, which is going to let us, you know, and we covered it with the UV so that we can paint over it, and it will be adequate. It will cover it. So we're done with the rotary tool. I'm going to put that away. I don't need it out. This is ready to be UV'd for the final UV, where I'm going to set her like this and UV her. And then we're going to, because it's a tray that goes in circles and hits it with UV light. If you don't have a UVer, you would use the sunlight, I guess, if you don't have a UV light to do it. I would hope that if you're doing the repair, you have something like a pen light or something else. However, a pen light's not going to UV this entire model, at least not within a normal time frame. It'd be faster just to set it in front of the sun. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put this in the UV chamber as well as the other ones, and we're going to move on to the next one where we actually start painting some of these. We're going to start with the small ones and we're going to move our way up, but this model is repaired. It came out really nice. Let's see here. Maybe if I turn this light off, you'll get a little bit better view. Okay, so if you can see here, it's been repaired very cleanly, very nicely. All the lines are pretty smooth. It does have a UV plastic coating over the top. We can run our finger over it. It's nice and smooth. She has been fixed. If I set her on the table, she sits perfectly. So this camera does have a zoom, however, the software from Mora does not let me zoom with the camera. So, I can't do that. Anyway, that will end this video, and I'll see you next time in the one where we actually start priming the models, which is the first step, and I'll be priming all of them. It's where we start our process of painting, and I will be doing on a Lazy Susan on a tool set, an airbrush venting thing, because you don't really want to breathe in tons of paint, and that has an exhaust fan and everything else with it, and a filter and the works. So here we are, and thanks for watching.